Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
We are back with episode 373 of the Online Success Journey. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur who's excited to share the various steps they took to build their business. And you will want to subscribe right now and ensure you never miss a journey like this one. Today we have Marie Platske, author and CEO of an international leadership development company. She has trained and coached over 100K leaders around the globe to make a bigger positive impact on the planet since 2005. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Patience. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. My audience are excited to hear your story. Just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
You'll learn about why connection is more important than almost anything else.
Let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, what you did before you started your own business?
Oh, I would love to. So my background is a little different. I did not grow up wanting to have a business or have any dreams about having a business. I grew up in the United States of America in a medium-sized town in Pennsylvania, and my career took me to being in federal law enforcement. And so I started off working for the United States Customs Service, and then later the Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection. And I was in New York, stationed in New York during 9/11. And it was a career that had many downs and many ups, and I loved it. I had majored in criminal justice and didn't think that I would ever leave law enforcement because I enjoyed it so much. And when I was at a crossroads and getting in a relationship, my then boyfriend made the decision to propose, which was sort of interesting because Patience, I had said, I don't want a serious relationship. He said, I don't want a serious relationship either. And, a year later, we end up I end up engaged. My husband was also working in federal law enforcement, and it became, what are you going to do? And I made the decision to leave the agency. And that was a really big decision. It was a really big deal because I loved law enforcement and I loved what I did. And there are many lessons that I gained from having a career there and from doing that kind of work. You learn a lot about people, you learn about yourself, you learn about, I'd say it really was the beginning of my journey into human behavior and leadership evolution and personal development. So I credit, my career there really to launching me into the business that I have today, the leadership evolution company that I've been in for the last 18 years.
But why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do is such a big question. The business has changed so much over the last 18 years from what I thought it was going to be, opening the door, to what it is today. And when I think about why I opened the business to why I do it today, they're very different reasons. Back then it really was about freedom and fun and flexibility so that I could spend more time with family and friends and in my faith. And over time, there was a place in my business where I really didn't like the business because it was so taxing and I was overwhelmed. And so I understood that there had to be an easier way, and wanted, what I would say was a shortcut for me. And so when I was really in pain and going, why is this so hard? Is it that I'm not smart? Is it that I don't, that this is something I shouldn't have done? And when I was asking myself all those questions, I recognized that there are a lot of people in business that suffer in silence. A lot of people who are both working in jobs and suffering, people who have businesses and are suffering, and people who have the idea of creating something, some sort of entrepreneurial venture. And so for me, today I look at it as, by giving people tools to be able to fully live out their divine mission and purpose, and by allowing them to really define health, happiness, success, and meaning, I alleviate suffering. I allow people to believe and see that you can have ease. You can have what you want and have it be done with ease. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be filled with stress and overwhelm. And so, I had to learn that on my own. And today it's really important that every day when I wake up, I have the opportunity to be able to do that for others.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
How do I know that I'm successful? Well, Ralph Waldo Emerson had a poem that he wrote called "What is Success?" And when I was in high school was the first time that I read that. And I remember typing it out on my typewriter and carrying it around with me. And I still have it today. And so that was, some 30 some years ago. And there's a sentence at the end of the poem that says, "To know one life has breathed easier because I have lived, this is to have succeeded." And so my definition of success is multi-layered. And if my life isn't contributing in some way, then success is more elusive.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
That's such an interesting question. The magical moment, when do things come together? And I see life as every moment is divinely perfect. It's the sum total of all of the experiences that one has had, and it's not perfect. And I think I like the way you use the word magical moment versus the perfect moment, because there is no such thing as true perfection. Being alive, simply waking up and having breath another day is a magical moment. My ability to walk across the room and use my two legs when some people can't, that's magical. The ability to look outside and see, to have eyes to see, and then to see the sunset and the sunrise, and that's magical. And I'm reminded every day, so much so now in my life, more so than when I was younger, that to look at each moment as a gift, and to see that makes every single moment truly magical. Sometimes when I'm in a plane and I go, oh my gosh, I'm flying. I am flying. I am 30,000 feet up. That's incredible. That is just amazing. So there's so much of that. And yet when I think of you asking this in terms of when were there times when everything aligned and it was just like something came from it, something magical happened. I was speaking, I had my team meeting this morning and was sharing with them how we put information out and we put it online, and somebody received the information and called and reached out about having me come and speak to their group. and then potentially come out to my farm to do a corporate retreat. And I thought, isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that all of the things that had to align and come together for that person to have found me, for that person to have been interested in what I'm currently doing with my leadership body of work. And sometimes it's when things don't happen, I don't get an opportunity, and then I go, wow, look at that, something better showed up. And I can give you, many, many, many examples of that happen. And then there are the times when all of the pieces come together for something to happen, like in the case of this speaking engagement and potential corporate retreat. And so this question about the magical moment, first, it's in every single moment. And second, to be in the space of witnessing when things happen or don't happen, and being able to see the 1,000 threads that it took to create that, and the 1,000 more that are going to lead to something even better. That for me is all of life being magical moments.
Thank you. Tell my audience about what do you mean when you say leadership, not just any leadership, but courageous leadership.
That's a really great question, Patience. That's a great question. And what it is, when I opened my business, my leadership evolution business, which is really, what we're all about, I mentioned, looking for a shortcut. Like, how do I be able to share this? That if you lead, you literally can make your life better, and that leadership starts with you and who you are. Went out and I interviewed people. I interviewed people who were successful in business, successful in nonprofit world, entrepreneurs, people who were in their own journey successful. And I looked at what are the elements that they have. And I came up with 7 pillars of leadership. And these 7 pillars of leadership success have been ones that I have taught and trained over the last 18 years since doing the research. They're ones I've done keynote talks on. I have a 3-day conference, my Upside Summit, that I use that body of research every January. I do the conference once a year. And those 7 pillars are plan, personality, partnership, priority, presence, executive presence, progress, and professional development. And a couple of years ago, when I realized that there was this other leader that I saw, like, what was this other leader that showed up? What was the leader that took risks and also put themselves out there, didn't necessarily take the easy path. It wasn't, had a team that just loved working for them. All of the elements where, if you look at in business, the variety of elements that would say that somebody would look externally and say, wow, that's a really amazing company, I want to work there. What do those leaders do differently? And I had read the research myself about employees want to being in on things and challenging work. But what did they do individually? Like, what did they themselves do? Not as an organization, like having team meetings, but what did they do in their daily life, and what did they do themselves to develop as a leader? And so that's where the courageous leadership came from, is that there were these 3 elements that came up over and over again with that group of leaders, which I would say is, in that 0.01%, really a small group of people. And what I saw, what came up were 3 elements. And those 3 elements were ones that, when you looked behind it, For example, one of the elements was vision. And I said, okay, well, great. That's great that they all have vision, but a lot of people have vision. So why that? Why is this showing up? And it was like, oh, the clarity is really the superpower behind that. And the clarity where every single thing was done with intention. So that was like one piece. And then the other one was this idea of vulnerability. And I went, yeah, but lots of people speak about vulnerability. Some people use it as a marketing tactic. Some organizations are afraid of it. What do these leaders do with that? And I recognized that what kept coming up for me in the vulnerability is that these were leaders that had an element of forgiveness. And so they didn't hold things, but it wasn't not holding grudges. It was really this forgiveness of self and all elements in their life they were at peace with. And so as I just continued to do the research and dive deeper and deeper, I recognized that these leaders that I call courageous leaders were ones that were incredibly beloved by their people, but also just unstoppable. They were just formidable leaders. And I can't say that I've seen it a lot, but when I've seen it, it's so incredible that courageous leadership does matter more than anything. And if somebody wants to dial in their own, become a leader that's worth following, paying attention to those elements and being able to do work around them matters so much.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
What have I learned? What have I not learned? Good grief. What have I learned from business as a whole? Patience. Business has been the greatest teacher, the greatest mentor, the greatest personal development teacher that I could have ever had. I've learned about money and profit and sales and cash flow and so much. And what I would say that is the greatest, the greatest piece has been about me. Every time something goes wrong in business, the only person that I have to look at is the person in the mirror. And so it doesn't matter whether it's something that my team did or whether or not there's something with a client that goes sideways. It's ultimately my responsibility. And so having to ask myself just on a regular basis, daily basis, over many times throughout the day, where am I hiding? Where am I lying to myself? Where am I needing to be better? That is the greatest gift that business has given me. And I think that level of transparency is one that without a business, it's, I don't think you have as many opportunities to ask yourself those questions.
You slightly touched about hiding. Tell my audience how to stop hiding out.
What I have found, I would say for me, and what I have found in having conversations with the many clients that I've had, there is a belief that there are certain things that you can't say in business. And so sometimes people will hide who they are. Sometimes people will hide how they act because they're embarrassed. An example using me is I talk about God, and I talk about God quite a bit, Patience, just because that's what I'm connected to. I don't need someone to believe what I believe, and I don't even need somebody to call it God. They can call it source or universe, or they can tell me they don't believe. However, I do. And so I found that in business, there were places where I didn't talk the way that I would talk. There was I'm going to talk this way at home, but I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to speak about God at work. And that's an element of hiding out. Now, there's another element of hiding out where sometimes there have been things where it feels like, oh gosh, you can't say that in business to people. You can't ask them about personal things. And I think that's not true either. Business is personal. And so sometimes people hide out because they're afraid of being seen as imperfect. Sometimes people hide out because they feel like they're not allowed to be who they are. Sometimes I think people hide out because they're ashamed of who they are and decisions that they've made. And we're beings that are made of atoms and molecules that are ultimately just energy. And when somebody hides something, we can tell. We may not understand what it is. It's just that we can tell because we can feel that. We're designed to pay attention as a species to keep ourselves safe when something, when you notice danger, when you're in an unsafe situation. Your body knows that. And so your body can't necessarily tell why somebody is hiding something or what they're hiding. They just understand that there's something that's in hiding. And so for me, I do my best to be fully transparent with myself first, which is a great, it's really easy to hide from yourself, and then with others. And so, how to come out of hiding is really to be transparent and to understand who you are, what you want, and why it matters, and be willing to be unapologetically you in situations and not to create, a persona here and people at work at a different you than the people at home. That's very confusing. So I'm hoping that gives listeners, an answer in how it is that I've done it and a potential step that they can take to do that for themselves.
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely know to do?
Gosh, rerun the first year of my business. I really didn't realize how much went into running a business, and I would have dialed in my systems and processes sooner. I think that there's just so much that I didn't realize, I didn't know, that it felt like we were, building the airplane while flying it.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
My willingness to ask for help and not do it all on my own. And I find that for many people, that's a hard thing to do. And I would say perhaps early on, I didn't ask for enough help. And my ability, the reason why I'm still around 18 years later and have coached the number of people that I've coached and the leaders that continue to come to me and the organizations I've worked with is because if I don't know something, I want to find somebody who's smarter than me and have them guide and help me.
What do you mean when you say, are you one of the 30%?
I ask people about, their, challenge them to whether or not they are leaders that are worth following, people that have their own clarity around their divine mission and purpose. And so you'll hear me say things like that, regularly, challenging people to examine where they're investing their time, where they're fully utilizing their gifts, abilities, talents, and experiences. So that's not uncommon for me to say, Patience.
Thank you. What grounds you?
What grounds me? Walking out in nature. I realized how easy it is when you're a business owner and you have a lot going on that you can be in your head and you can spend so much time thinking, or even creating that really your body has such divine wisdom. And so I do believe it's the reason why God's brought me to a farm in the Bluegrass Region in Kentucky. And, for me, walking out in nature, it is the best experience. I try to do that several times a day.
In your business, do you have a mentor or a coach yourself?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I don't, I may have a leadership coaching and training and consulting business, and I may do retreats and for one-on-one retreats for leaders, as well as, as for companies, and I do all of those things for myself. So, I have a finance mentor, I have a spiritual mentor, I have a business coach, I have lots of people that I pay for their wisdom and direction, because it's interesting. Sometimes my coaches will give me tools and they'll give me exercises to do that I've given my clients. And yet when we're really close to something, it's too hard to see it. We need someone to help keep us on track. And so I understand that. And that's why I say I don't have a problem asking for help. And not only that, I have several masterminds I'm part of that I pay to belong to. I believe so much in investing in me to be a bit better every day, the same way that my clients invest in my services.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors has told you?
What's the most valuable thing? Oh gosh, that would be, I could write books on that. I could probably, fill up volumes on that. I'll give you a story, perhaps a short story, which I think is something that sticks in my mind that my business mentor said. So about 2 years ago, had hired this gentleman and said, what needs to happen in my business. And he ultimately told me that I needed to rebrand and kind of tear it all down and start all over. And when you're in business for 18 years, you would like to think you have done some things right. And so having this man tell me, pretty much you have to get rid of it all and start all over, was really heartbreaking. I was pretty upset, Patience. And so when I said, okay, I'm hiring him for his advice and here's what he's giving me, I was on a call with him and I said, I have to tell you that, right now I'm feeling a little bit upset, and I want to share this with you honestly, because it feels like everything that I've done has been for nothing. I'm going to start from scratch. And the advice he gave me and what he said to me is, I don't see it that way at all. He said, I see it that you've been a caterpillar and you've been eating all this great food and you've been doing things and getting awards and you have experienced success. And we're not taking any of that away. We're just looking for how the caterpillar can turn into a butterfly. And if you understood this man, he's a very masculine, machismo. So this is not like him saying that was sort of, it was a sort of funny thing, for him to say versus somebody else who maybe that might have been their normal language. But why I carry that with me and why that part was so valuable is because there's no situation in life that we have, no matter how painful or awful, and no matter how good it is, that is not the ability to learn something from, and that doesn't produce value if we actually use it in that manner. And so what I heard him say was, take all the things that you learned from the last 16 years, because this was 2 years ago, and they got you exactly to where you are right now. And if you want to go further, and if you want to grow this and exponentially grow your business and 10x your business, then you've got to take the best of all of those things and use it to rebuild. But you can't take all of the things that you have because some of them aren't serving you. And much like the caterpillar, it doesn't serve to stay in that space when you have the ability to fly. And I really got that in a way that, he said a few other things. So there's so much that I've gotten from my mentor, so much, like just such value that it's fresh perspectives.
Wow, thank you. Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about it and how can we join it?
My business is all about leadership, and leadership is all about influence. And so it is something where I'm interested in somebody fully tapping into their divine mission and purpose. You have a purpose, you have a mission, you have something that's uniquely yours to do on the planet, as does every single person. And when they do it when they're fully in the understanding of what that is and living it out every day, the world is made better by it. And so, I want to help people get really clear on what that is so they can step out and do it and make a bigger difference on the planet. And so leadership is the tool, the avenue that I use through coaching sessions and 3 different coaching programs I have, individual retreats that I've spoken about, where somebody comes to my farm or I go out to their location and we spend a day or 2 together privately mapping out where it is they're going and then doing some implementation on the spot. And what I find is, much like that story of the butterfly, you can't get to where you want to go with where you are right now. Like wherever it is, that you want to go, there's something else you need, a new tool, a different way of perspective of seeing something. Because if that weren't true, you already would have accomplished or done whatever it is that you wanted. So there's something that's potentially getting in the way. And I help people be able to see what that is and then immediately take action, because without the action, then nothing changes. I love this about the body of work that I get to do in leadership, because years ago I thought leadership was only about the hiring and the firing and the mission statements and the performance management plans. And I can do all that with someone and spend time with the business acumen. However, who you are and what you want and why it matters, and creating a plan and around that really is what allows leaders to be better for themselves, their families, and their place of work, their business.
And where can we find your company, and how can we connect with you?
My company is Upside Thinking, UPSIDE, and the word thinking, THINKING.com. So upsidethinking.com has lots of information about me, and my personal email is Lisa Marie, LISAMARIE, at upsidethinking.com. I love hearing from people. I'm on, LinkedIn and on Facebook, and I love being in connection and dialogue with people and hearing their what it is that they're excited about, what it is their purpose is all about.
Thank you. There will be more from Lisa in a moment. If you are listening to this on a podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Lisa's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. In addition to the amazing free content, you can work direct with me. Check out my course, Success: How to Set Goals and Double Your Productivity, a course for achieving success in work and life, when you visit onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has a ton of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneur guests' journeys, all there to help you find the path to your own online success journey. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Lisa, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you're up for it.
I'm always up for it. You've been absolutely delightful. Your questions are so thoughtful.
Thank you. Do you like watching movies or reading books?
Books.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, books. Gosh, oh my goodness, my long list of books. You want me to pick one? Somebody may not think, how could that be relevant to an entrepreneur? However, I'm going to say The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I could give you 16 books. That's so hard.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
Well, it's not a business without being able to sell something. So I'd have to say that I would invest it in figuring out what it was that I was going to sell so that it could grow.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your pocket every day, what would be written on it?
How can I be a force for good on the planet right now?
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you are only on the way?
Both.
Will you ever stop?
No. No, people ask me that all the time. The answer is no.
Okay. Remind us how we can connect with you once more.
Upsidethinking.com, UPSIDE, and the word thinking, THINKING.com. And Lisa Marie at upsidethinking.com is my personal email. And on my website, you can even set up time on my calendar.
Lisa, it's been great to have you to share your online success journey with us.
Patience, thank you. You've been simply delightful. I love your thoughtful questions and how connected you are to wanting to be able to show what success looks like and the downs and the ups of it.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Lisa.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.